Hi, my name is Lorraine, and today's video I'm going to be showing you how I make beans in the Instant Pot. This is such a simple and easy way to do it. I thought I would just pop on here really quick and show you how quick and easy it is. It does take a little bit of time, however. So the day before, I show you how we prepare our beans. I usually like to start my beans in the morning. That way I'm guaranteed a full 24 hours before I get started the next day on cooking the beans. What I have with me is some beautiful cranberry beans, and I'm going to soak these beans so that way I can cook them tomorrow. Dry beans will, once they're soaked, they're going to plump up 3 times the size. So if I'm going to soak 1 cup of dry beans, I'm going to end up with 3 cups of soaked beans. For my family, I'm just going to do about 2 cups of dry beans. Before you add water to your beans, you're going to want to sort through your beans and just run them through your fingers and make sure that there are not any rocks or debris or maybe some really bad looking beans in your pot. Now that I've added the water, I'm just going to set this in a part of my kitchen where they can be undisturbed. I may put like a towel over them so nothing will just kind of fall inside, and then just leave them soaking for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. It's very important to soak your beans. When you soak your beans, you have to think of them like as a seed. They are still in their seed form, and a lot of seeds they have this protective coating over them that makes it hard for them to be digested. When you soak your beans, you're releasing that outer shell, which they're called phytates, and you're making these beans a little bit more easier for your body to absorb the nutrients in the bean and digest the bean. If you are soaking black beans, you'll want to add about a teaspoon to about a tablespoon, depending on how many beans you're soaking, of lemon juice. And by adding some of that acid, that's going to help the process of releasing that outer shell and help to break down the bean for your body to absorb. I like to cover my beans with about a couple inches of water, but you're going to want to keep an eye on it through the day and make sure that your beans have not plumped up above the water, because then if they're standing outside of the water, they're not really soaking. So I'll just keep an eye on it, and if I start to see that the beans are rising above the water, I will add more water to it, or I find that it's a good time to rinse and drain. And I will rinse and drain these beans maybe once or twice before I'm ready to actually cook them tomorrow. Now it's been 24 hours since our beans have been soaking, and I mentioned in the video that we can rinse and drain these beans a couple times. Well, I forgot and I didn't have time, but that's okay because I can do that now. And I can just drain off this water here, rinse it a couple times, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that our beans have been fully soaked and they have been drained and rinsed off just a few times, they're ready to be cooked. But I wanted to point out something really quick. If you take a look at these beans, they look a whole lot different than the beans that we started with. You can see that some of the beans have cracked open, and maybe some of them might have a little tail coming out of the cracked open space. Now, don't be alarmed. The very first time that I followed this recipe, I thought they were worms, and we actually threw out the entire pot of beans. But they are not worms. It is called the sprout. So your beans were starting to sprout, and that's perfectly okay, and that's actually more nutritious for you. So if you see little sprouts coming out, it's nothing to be worried about. It's perfectly okay and perfectly edible. If you don't have an Instant Pot, I'm gonna put a link down below in the show notes where you can get an Instant Pot. It cuts the cooking time by far more than half, and it's just a really great thing to have in the kitchen. One reason why I like cooking beans specifically in the Instant Pot is because I don't have to sit and watch and babysit something that's boiling on the stove. If we were to be cooking these beans in a regular pot on the stove, you could be cooking them for about an hour, maybe more. With an Instant Pot, you just press start, walk away, and I mean, I'm still in the same house, but I don't have to like physically keep an eye on a boiling pot. Now that our beans are in the pot, I'm just going to fill it with liquid about an inch above the beans. They've already soaked up all of their liquid, so they're not really going to expand anymore. So if you like a lot of liquid with your beans, then you're gonna put a little bit more. I don't like a whole lot of liquid, so I'm just going to put about an inch above the beans. Okay, so now our beans and our water are in the pot. The next thing, at this point, you can season your beans to your liking. Whatever you like to enjoy eating with your beans, you can put that into the pot now. Maybe you'll want to put half an onion or some garlic. I really like the combination of onion, garlic, and oregano, maybe some cumin. However, there are many times where I just make the beans very simple if I'm in a rush, and it works out just great. I'll just put a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and then once they're done cooking, I will add it to another dish, and that's where I will have all of the seasonings and the onions and the garlic. So for this recipe, I'm just gonna make it very simple and just add some sea salt and some cracked pepper. Now, the amount of salt that you're gonna add is just dependent on how many beans you have. You can always eyeball it and just take a look and see if it looks like it's enough salt. Don't over salt it, because you can always add more salt after it's done. Every Instant Pot or every pressure cooker is going to have its own set of instructions. You'll want to take a look at your instruction manual and see what it says for soaked beans. Mine happens to say anywhere from 27 to 28 minutes. The cranberry bean happens to be a pretty hefty bean, so I'm gonna choose 28 minutes. I'm gonna go down here and press bean, and then just add 1 more minute. And now I'm gonna make sure my knob says it's in the sealing position. You don't want it to be venting. You want it to be in the sealing position. My lid is closed. It's going to build up pressure and pressure cook our beans. And then after 28 minutes, it'll beep, but I'm gonna let it release on its own because I've got a lot of things to do today. So after 28 minutes and that the pressure has released on its own, we'll come back here and check out our beans. Okay, so now it's been a couple of hours and the Instant Pot has had time to naturally release its pressure. So I'm gonna bring it over here so you can see it better. One of the really cool features that I love about the Instant Pot is once it's done cooking and pressure cooking, it clicks on over to warm. And so this has been keeping my beans warm for about 2.5 hours. Before you open your lid, it's always a good thing to check to see if all the pressure has been released naturally. And you can do that by switching this knob over to vent. Well, obviously you want to move your hand out of the way, just in case there was a little steam coming out. So you can just switch it over and there would be steam coming up, but I knew that it had been finished venting and there's no more steam. You'll also want to keep your face away from this venting hole. So it's better if you do it back over on your countertop and you just switch the knob right over and allow the steam to come out. I always like to let it vent out naturally over time. That way I know that there's no hidden pressure inside the Instant Pot. It would have been locked, it would not have let me open it, but I still like to let it vent out naturally. So we're gonna open it. There still is gonna be some steam come out because it's hot. Our beans are finished cooking. They're still really hot. I don't think that they're too mushy. If you do think that they are a little too soft for your liking, the next time you cook them, just reduce it by 1 minute and see what the difference is for that. I like this consistency and I like these beans. And so at this point, I'm going to take them and put them in a tall mason jar or a glass storage container and then use them in my next meal. But I just wanted to show you how easy that was to get beans going and cooking early in the morning. It's only 2 o'clock here and we've finished this and these have been sitting for over 2 hours. We have plenty of time to put together a very nice dinner with these beans. Thanks for watching. Again, my name is Lorraine with Sow the Land. We'll see you guys next time.